Hey everybody, AJ the one here. How y'all doing? And I'm doing fine myself. This is part 11? So what if Deku was a swordsman? So, last time I left off, Izuku had just started raiding a snow base. Or one of the snow bases for the Hanzo mercenary group. So, where I left off, Izuku had just quickly taken out everybody on the outside of the military base. So when this would happen, Izuku would be standing amongst all the bodies. As amongst in the trees, Froppy and Jiro would be looking down, seeing what Izuku has done. As they would turn around and run back to go notify the group on what they had saw. As they would be out patrolling for Hanzo mercenaries alongside with a couple of other students from Class 1A. When this happens, let's see. Yeah, right. So Izuku would be casually walking up towards the front door, but before he enters, Izuku would casually be walking towards the front door as when he would get close enough, he would play his palm on the door. He would put his palm on the door as he would lift up his palm, only pressing his fingertips against the door itself. Izuku would slam his hand down back into a palm forcing motion as the doors would go flying off of its hinges. When this would happen, all the snow and a bunch of snow and air would both bust into the room as the bottom floor would basically just be almost like an empty space area. It would just have a bunch of tables, seats, and a bunch of lights and guns scattered across the table. And of course the pleasure of gods would be in there as well. But as soon as this would happen, they will all be confused. They will all be confused as all this snow and gusts would come in as one of them would grab their gun and start shooting at the mist or the gust of snow. As this happened, Izuku would have jumped up on top of the ceiling faster than any of them could see. I changed my mind. Izuku would end up jumping out of the snow and landing in front of the mercenaries as he would unsheath his blade would already be unsheathed. He would land almost like Spider-Man as he would look up at the random mercenary as he would lunge his blade right through the mercenary's neck. Izuku would lunge the blade through the mercenary's neck and grab the back of the mercenary's head as Izuku would twist around in motion as he would slam the mercenary to the ground while also simultaneously pulling out his blade. When he would pull out his blade from the mercenary's neck, the mercenary's blood would splatter into another's eyes as soon as Izuku would fully pull back his blade, he would bend his elbow to thrust the blade into the other mercenary's chest. All the other Hanzo mercenaries would stand in shock as they would all pick up their guns and start shooting. Some of them would also begin to use their quirks, which would be kind of useless. Some would be able to shoot out like miniature, gusts of wind. Just quirks that wouldn't be as useful as guns in that type of situation, that is said. As they all would be shooting at Izuku, Izuku would have quickly ran over to a table and kicked it over. While this was happening, one of the guys would have grabbed a grenade and threw it at the and would have thrown it towards Izuku or the table that Izuku was sitting in. When this When this had happened, what the fuck, bro? Come on now. When this had happened, the table ended up exploding as all the smoke and debris from off the table and the floor would go up and smoke, or would cause a screen of smoke to appear. When this would happen, all the men would wait for the smoke to clear up, from the explosion of the grenade, as they would see that all they would see is a slightly messed up and shattered floor and a completely destroyed and disheveled table. All the men would begin to look scared and confused as they would all grab their guns and look around, as none of them would have ended up seeing anything. When this would happen, Izuku, or no, not Izuku, almost simultaneously, all the lights in the room would fall down, killing only some of the men that happened to be under the lights. When this would happen, there would be no light left in the room, and the only light that was left would be the light from the door, leading into the outside. When this would happen, Izuku would jump down in front of the door, only appearing in the light. As this would happen, one of the men would end up shooting at Izuku. Izuku almost seemingly vanished from the man's sight, and almost in the next moment, the man would have gotten the same treatment as the first mercenary that Izuku had killed. Stabbed through the neck, spun around, and slammed it to the ground. Another mercenary who had a machete in his hand would swing at Izuku as Izuku would clash against him. No, he would parry the mercenary's blade, causing the mercenary to stumble as Izuku blocked his machete, as the man will constantly slice across Izuku's chest. As Izuku will constantly slash across the man's chest. When this would happen, the man will fall to the ground dead. Will fall to the ground dead, as one of the mercenaries behind Izuku would fire off shots at him. As Izuku would again vanish, as a mercenary that would be standing in front of Izuku would have gotten hit by all the bullets. And the guy that shot Izuku from the back will also end up getting a sword from the back as well. As this all would be happening, Izuku will proceed to jump back up to the ceiling, proceeding to dispatch and take care of all the other men inside of the room. The men upstairs, as this would be at least a 3-story floor, or no, not a 3-story floor, a 3-floored sort of building or base. The men from below would be hearing the gunshots and the screaming, until suddenly all the screaming went quiet. The next floor will almost like an apartment, you could say, almost be just nothing but a bunch of set of rooms. So it sort of looks like, like the inside of a basic Japanese style castle. So as this would happen. Oh my lord, it's loud. Hold on, give it a second. Oh. Good morning. Sorry for the silent pause there. Or for the long pause there. Just it was really loud and somebody was talking to me, so I had to quickly, not speak on the what if. But back to the what if. As all of the men in the upper floor would be standing there, sitting in one decent sized hallway, as they were all be sitting there scared for what was going to happen. As suddenly they would be hearing heavy steps or heavy stomps coming up the steps. As the man up front with his gun would be shaking, as suddenly half of Ezekiel's face would appear past the wall, as Ezekiel would look directly at the man. When this would happen, the man would unload his assault rifle at Ezekiel. As Ezekiel would use his blade and twist around and quickly begin to slash against the blades. As soon as it would happen, all the other men in the front row of the hallway would also begin shooting. When they will all see that Ezekiel was doing nothing but simply just deflecting and blocking the bullets, one of the men would have ended up reaching down to the side, grabbing a grenade and throwing it towards Ezekiel. When this would happen, Ezekiel seeing this coming, Ezekiel would reel back his blade and stab it forward, as Ezekiel would stab the part of the grenade where basically, where basically he stabbed the part where before like the gunpowder and the meat, or they've already met but it hasn't caused an explosion. So Ezekiel would stab it there so no more gunpowder could get into the fluid for it to cause an explosion, as Ezekiel would twist around in a circle and he would twist around in a circle with a grenade still on his blade as he would launch it forward, causing the grenade to fly forward and explode in front of the group of men. Breaking and cutting through all the doors on the side and all the sort of wooden paper doors on the side, and also killing some of the men in the front. As soon as this would happen, Ezekiel would rush forward and proceed to slash at one of the men. When this would happen, or when Ezekiel would slash at the man, the blood would splatter from the man's chest, getting onto Ezekiel. As soon as this would happen, Ezekiel would rush forward as the two other men in front of Ezekiel would shoot their guns, but Ezekiel quickly began to deflect the bullets and slash at both of the men. As soon as this would happen, one of the guys would fall back at the end of the hallway against a wall. As Ezekiel would be standing up over the man, in this exact position that you see on screen, ready to stab the man in his chest, which Ezekiel would do after the man would beg for his life. Ezekiel will realize that the door is most likely a fake. The wall behind the man was most likely a fake. So Ezekiel would press on all sides and would end up eventually getting pushed around, or Ezekiel would end up pushing against the wall as the entire wall would flip and Ezekiel would get pushed around onto the other side. Onto the other side, Ezekiel would see a completely different group of men, as he would basically do the same thing that he did for the last 2 floors: dispatch all of them. Well, as Ezekiel was running around, he will also end up eventually running into 2 specifically different looking men. One of these men would have a very long staff, and another one would have a very long sword, about as long as Genzo's, but about as thin as Ezekiel's. Izuku would look at both of the men almost in confusion, as all the other guys that he's fought and killed so far look like basic runts except for these two. These two would be sitting out in the third hallway that Izuku has found behind another fake wall. These two would currently be walking away from the wall, seeing that they, almost symbolizing that they had just used it. As they would look, they would turn back in confusion, realizing that some time ago on the radio that some guy had reported that somebody had broken into the castle and is now taking out most of their men. The shorter guy with the staff would ended up turning around and pointing out that might be the kid, and the taller one of the two with the long blade would also end up pointing out that the shorter one was right. Izuku would stare both of the men down as he would get into a stance and rush forward. Soon as this would happen, Izuku would jump into the air and slice his blade downwards towards the man with the smaller staff, towards the shorter man with the staff. The shorter man would easily just dodge away from Izuku's slash. But soon as this would happen, Izuku would realize that the man's staff had disappeared until suddenly he would get smacked in the side of the face by the staff. Izuku would almost look confused. As soon as this would happen, the man would rush forward with a punch, but Izuku would end up dodging out of the way until suddenly the staff would appear in the man's hand sideways as Izuku would get smacked in the face again. Izuku would roll against the ground to get up, still being confused on how the man had just did that had made his staff disappear and reappear. Suddenly, a large gust of wind would have ended up blowing Izuku to the side. Izuku would have gotten almost a small amount of sort of remembrance from this attack, thinking of Inasa, when he would look over and see the larger man with the long blade. The larger man would introduce himself as Kazuhawa, and the other shorter one next to him was Himiwari. They would both tell Izuku that they're both official commanders of the Hanzo mercenary, and they've heard a lot about him. And now from the orders that they've been told from that Yuki girl, that Izuku should be the one that should be killed. Izuku would look at both of the men as he would glare down, still not saying a word. As Izuku would rush forwards. The shorter man in the staff would make his staff disappear again as Izuku would rush forwards. God damn it! Hold on. When this would happen, Izuku would have ended up. What was? Where was I? Right. Izuku would rush forwards. The guy, Himawari, would make his staff disappear, and Izuku would slash towards him. When Izuku would do this, as soon as this would happen, Izuku would have ended up reacting to the reappearance of the staff, blocking it, and then on top of blocking it, to the shock of Kazuhara and Himawari. As soon as this happened, Izuku would have ended up punching Himawari across his face. Himawari would have stumbled back with a bloody nose as Izuku would spin around in a full circle, slashing at Himawari's feet. Himawari would again jump back while yelling out. He would yell how in the world did a puny wimp like you predict one of my attacks? As Izuku would stare at Himawari and smirk as he would tell him, that all he's doing is just making his staff shrink and grow. If he can't predict something like that, how does he plan to take down Yuki? Himawari would end up getting upset at this until Kazihara just stay back and let him handle this. After this, Himawari would swing at Izuku with his staff, as Izuku would simply duck under it. As soon as this would happen, soon as this would happen, damn, why do I keep saying as soon as this happened? Himawari would swing at Izuku with his staff, as Izuku would duck under and throw a kick into the side of Himawari. Himawari's gut would end up wrenching, or not wrenching. That's a strong word. Himawari's gut would basically, his gut would basically wrench and jiggle around inside of his stomach due to Izuku's powerful kick. Himawari would hold the side of his stomach and stumble over as Izuku would slash at him. Himawari, still being a very skilled fighter, but not often taking a hit because of his overpowered defense and offense, he wouldn't be fully ready for an attack like that, so he would be very stunned. So when Izuku threw a slash at his face, Himawari would still end up jumping back, would still only end up slightly dodging, as a large gash would be shown across his face. Izuku, not letting up, would rush forward again and throw another slash at Himawari as Himawari would put up his staff to block. As Izuku would throw another slash and another and another and another and another and another, constantly slashing and hitting against Himawari's staff, until finally Himawari would shrink his staff when Izuku would almost nearly hit against it. Himawari would shrink his staff, so Izuku's full body would have ended up or Izuku's full body movement into the slash would still make his full movement, leaving Izuku wide open. Or in other words, Himawari would shrink his staff as Izuku's attack would miss, leaving him wide open. Himawari would smirk at this as his staff would grow or go against its normal size as he would thrust it forward towards Izuku. Before Izuku would get hit in the face by this, as Himawari would proceed to make his staff grow longer and longer as he would slam Izuku into the ceiling. When this would happen, Izuku would fall onto the ground as Himawari would grow the length of his staff as he would lift it up into the air, ready to slam it into Izuku. Ready to slam it into Izuku. Before Himawari's attack could land, Izuku would end up rolling out of the way. And when it ended up stomping his foot on top of Himawari's staff. Himawari would slightly smirk, yelling at Izuku, "You think that I can lift your puny foot off my staff?" As Himawari would lift up his arms, expecting Izuku to end up flying off of his staff, when in reality he didn't, or expecting Izuku to fly off his staff, when in reality he didn't. Good morning. When in reality he didn't. Izuku would still be standing atop the staff. Or still be standing 1 foot on the staff, as Himawari would stand there and shot. Himawari would find no other choice and would end up shrinking his staff, causing Izuku's foot to finally land upon the ground. Soon as this would happen, Himawari would grow his staff back to normal size as he would be pointing his staff forward, yelling at Izuku on how in the world is he outmatch him like this. As Izuku wouldn't even really have a bloody nose either. It would only be just a small trickle that would end about almost like nearing the nostril nearing his nostril. Ezekiel will put his thumb on one side of it, on one nostril, and blow his nose, basically causing the snot to blow out of the other. Oh. When this would happen, Ezekiel would end up smirking at Himawari, basically telling Himawari that Ezekiel's plan is to take down and kill Yuki. Himawari and Kazihara would both be standing shocked at Ezekiel's declaration. As both of them would begin laughing, saying that Ezekiel truly believes that he could do something like this, and as Ezekiel would confirm that he would be able to. As Ezekiel would get into a stance, Ezekiel would get into a stance as he would lightly crouch down towards the ground, as he would also press his feet into the ground, as he would yell secret sword technique, lightning movement, as he would dash forward across the room, faster than either Kazuhara or Himawari could even predict. As soon as this would happen, Ezekiel would appear behind Kamihara and Himawari. But the only one that would turn around in realization would be Kamihara, as Himawari's head, as the upper half of Himawari's body would end up falling off onto the ground. Kazuhara would stand there in shock and awe on how Ezekiel just did such a feat, as he would clench his teeth and ball up his fist, as he would end up grabbing his large sword and causing one to crunch up around it, as he would slam the sword against the ground, or slashing the blade forwards, causing it to slam against the ground on how heavy it is. The one slash would be coming towards Ezekiel, as Ezekiel would end up dodging out of the way. Ezekiel would end up dodging out of the way and using his shoulder to bash into one through one of the paper doors into another room. When this would happen, Ezekiel would end up running down all the doors, basically busting through one after another, trying to get further away from Kamihara, or trying to get closer, I meant to say. Kamihara, seeing what Ezekiel was doing, he would reel back his blade almost like Whitebeard, as he would slash it all across in front of him, as all the paper doors and all of them behind him would constantly, all the wood even would get sliced and splintered, as it would be following Ezekiel. Ezekiel would basically be, at this point, would be running away from the one slash until he would turn and jump out of the way, or until he would turn and break through one of the paper doors, getting out of the way. Ezekiel would end up rolling across the ground to get a full recovery, as he would end up seeing that he's basically at this point right next, or right side by side to Kamihara. Ezekiel would look up at Kamihara as Ezekiel would stab forward. Kamihara would try to turn his wrist and try to stab downward towards Ezekiel, but last second, the best thing that Kamihara could do is only get a small nick across Ezekiel's back, or at least on the back of Ezekiel's armor, as Ezekiel's entire blade will be plunged through Kamihara's chest. Ezekiel would, as Ezekiel would pull out his blade, causing Kamihara's blood to spurt as he would fall towards the ground. Ezekiel would look up. Seeing that there were three other walls. Or fuck that. Ezekiel would look up as he would rush forward, as Ezekiel would go past another fake wall, as he would look behind him, seeing almost a staircase further up, to at least what looks like the top of the building. Ezekiel would walk up the staircase, as he would end up seeing a very tall man. I would say around nearing 8 feet. An 8-foot tall man with very big burly arms, or he would have very basic Shogun armor. He had very basic Shogun armor, but no helmet. and instead of clothing that would adorn his arms, it would be fur. As the man would basically just look like a really giant gorilla in samurai armor. As the man or the gorilla would be looking at Izuku, he would be sitting in this giant throne with a fist on his hand as he would be slouched over until Izuku would get in the room. The man would look slightly confused as he would use his other hand to point at Izuku and ask him who the hell he was. Yo, kid, who the hell are you? Izuku, only covered in blood, would get in a stance and slowly walk towards Izuku. When this would happen, the gorilla would eyes would actually slightly widen as he would smirk. Oh, so you're the one that's been taking out all my forces. As the large gorilla man would get up and reach over to grab and reach over. When he did, he would grab a lever that would be by his throne as he would pull it. When he would, a very large hammer would come out of the ground and would present itself to the gorilla man, or to the gorilla, as he would end up grabbing this giant hammer. The gorilla man would begin yelling. Well, the fact that you're even up here close enough to me means that you've killed Kamihara and Himawari. Those useless idiots couldn't. If those useless idiots couldn't even kill you, that means you must be a challenge. So come at me, boy. Fight me. The gorilla would yell this as Izuku would be walking at the same pace. But the gorilla wouldn't waste any time as he would rush forward and lift his hammer into the air to slam it onto Izuku. Now we would cut away from this. As we would be seeing Froppy and Jiro both basically reporting to Kendo, Todoroki, Kirishima, Neki Kaminari, and Shoto Aizawa on how they saw Izuku basically raiding the base that they had already planned to enter. Aizawa would look shocked at this as he would tell his students that they all need to go and alert the authorities so they could go and capture Izuku. Kendo would be against this, but Aizawa would tell her that he's also against it as well. But far as they see it, but far as it is, Izuku is now a vigilante, a villain, and what they need to do is put him behind bars, but only for a temporary amount of time, as Izuku won't be going to jail for what he's doing, and Aizawa would make sure of that. But as far as they know, they need to capture him and bring him in. Aizawa would think about going, but realizing that he would almost be useless. The best thing that he can do is use his capture tape, since from what he can tell on their research on Izuku, and also from the beating that the blade has taken, it's almost seemingly indestructible. They've never seen anything like it before, something as durable as this. But the best way to put it is the classification as invincible. So the fact that Izuku's blade is not only sharp enough to basically cut through steel, and also invincible, he would also, that means Izuku will be able to easily cut through Aizawa's cut through Aizawa's bandages. And then on top of that, Aizawa, from what he can tell, is probably physically weaker and slower than Izuku, so he would be nothing but a burden. So Aizawa would send out Denki Kaminari, Todoroki, and Kendo to all go confront Izuku. And the rest of them would be backing out with Aizawa to go and get extra authority, or to go and get reinforcements. when this would happen, Kendo, Todoroki, and Denki will all rush towards the base that they had seen it. Actually, no. He will also send Froppy to show them where the base was. As soon as all of them, or as soon as the four would get out in front of the base, they will all see on how there's nothing but slaughtered men all littered across the front of it, and as they will also get the scent of blood from even inside of the building. As Denki, Todoroki, Froppy, and Kendo will all get a sort of a quease in their stomach as they will all slowly sit there and begin to realize that Izuku had caused all of this carnage. Kendo would tell them all that they need to go inside and go and look for Izuku until all of a sudden at the top of the floor it would explode and break apart as Izuku and the large gorilla man would be falling down. The gorilla man would only have one arm, which would be still holding the large hammer and cutting and piercings all over his body. While they're both falling towards the ground, the monkey man would try to swing at Izuku. Izuku would have ended up using his blade to parry out the gorilla's sword, or the best way to put it, the gorilla man tries to swing at Izuku mid-air with his hammer. Izuku uses the momentum of the blade, the hammer and the blade to flip himself in a circle, basically parrying the attack and getting himself some momentum forward. So this will happen. Izuku, while basically spinning like Levi forward, would elbow the gorilla man right in the throat, as Izuku would cause this constant motion and slit the man across the throat as well. As soon as Izuku and the gorilla man would land on the ground, all the snow and some of the snowy blood would kick up into the air. As soon as all of it would fall, Izuku would stab the gorilla man right in the chest, piercing his heart. Izuku would end up removing his blade. As soon as this happened, he would end up looking up to see Todoroki, Denki, Froppy, and Kendo all staring at him. Izuku would stare up and look up at all of them. And in his eyes, he would have some shame of sorts, but he wouldn't really know what to feel. As he was looking at all of them, they all would almost be speechless. Kendo would be about to say something on the lines of that Izuku, we could say that to come with us and we can help you back, or no, that's what she would say, but Todoroki put his hand out in front of her. This isn't the Izuku that they know. This is a more hardened and more veteran-like Izuku. He's not Izuku Midoriya who's here to listen. He's Izuku Midoriya who's here to do what he needs to do. A vigilante, a villain. So we might as well treat him like that. As Todoroki would say this, he would stand up and he would already be standing up. He would look firmly at Izuku, as basically pinning Izuku with a glare, as he would tell Izuku that Izuku Midoriya, you are under arrest you are under arrest for unlicensed hero work and murder. Izuku would end up pinning. Izuku would look at Todoroki almost in acceptance, as Izuku would lift up his blade, ready to fight his friends. Denki will also end up putting up his hands as well, basically in a panicking motion. Telling Izuku that can't they just talk and sort this out? Todoroki would tell Denki that there's no way for them to sort this out. This is Izuku's choice, and this is what Izuku's going to do. What they can do is get Izuku behind bars so he can join up with them again. Denki reluctantly would end up putting his hands into sort of a prepared motion as light sparks would be coming out of his hands. Froppy would end up crouching down, basically in a jumping position, and Kendo would get light orange sparks around her body. As they all would be, as Izuku would also end up, like I said, already have his blade drawn and put it up, as getting in a stance, as they will all proceed to leap towards each other, or leap towards each other for battle. When they would all pounce at each other, Todoroki would launch off fire, and as soon as this would happen, Izuku would reel back his blade and cut forward, basically slicing through the flames and getting right in front of Todoroki. As soon as this would happen, Izuku would turn the blade and slice at Todoroki, as Todoroki would actually dodge. How Izuku would have ended up cutting Todoroki, he would basically end up still cutting Todoroki, but no matter how hard he swung, on how Izuku basically positioned it, he would have never been able to kill Todoroki unless he positioned the slice a certain type of way. And how Izuku did, it wouldn't have killed him. But it would have still definitely left a scar. As Izuku was shocked that Todoroki dodged, but Izuku would keep up the momentum as he would let go of his blade mid-air and swap his hand to do a reverse grip as he would drag his blade into the snow and launch it forward to launch a bunch of snow forward and also slice at Todoroki. Only thing that Todoroki could do is put up an ice wall and jump back to make sure that he doesn't get cut. And the only thing that would happen to Todoroki is a slight slash across his chest. As soon as this would happen, an electric shock would go through the ground as it would be coming towards Izuku. Izuku would jump in the air to dodge it until Froppy would come out of nowhere and kick Izuku in the side. Izuku would have basically just taken the kick and grab Froppy by her ankle and throw her down to the ground, and throw her down to the electric snow-covered ground. As Froppy would begin to get electrocuted. As soon as this would happen, Kaminari would stop the attack and would end up apologizing for what he did. As soon as this would happen, Izuku would have ended up using the technique that he used in the tower lightning movement to basically put all his power into his legs and launch himself forward towards Kaminari. When he would do this, he would launch towards Kaminari and reel back his palm and thrust it forward, slamming Kaminari's face into the ground and dragging him across the snow. As soon as this would happen, Kaminari wouldn't be knocked out, but he would be heavily injured. As Izuku would end up kneeing Kaminari right in the chest. Oh no, right in the stomach. As Izuku would grab Kaminari by the back of the shirt. Actually, no. Izuku would let Kaminari go by the face, and as Izuku would lift up his blade, ready to knock Kaminari out by using the bottom of the handle, but before he could, Izuku would get hit by a gust of air. As Kendo would have thrust her palm forward, basically almost like Izuku's Air Force technique, but with the palm of her hands. Izuku ended up getting knocked back some, as Kaminari is pretty much almost knocked out. But he still has enough brain cells to continue going. Froppy is basically immobilized, and now only in this less span of almost a minute, now half of their team is down. Kendo will rush forward as excuse me.
Sorry.
Sheesh. That guy was odd. My bad. Kendo would rush forward, and so would Izuku. As when both of them would meet, Kendo would throw out a normal-sized fist. So as soon as this would happen, Izuku would easily dodge out of the way, but will end up using the sort of his would end up lightly pushing himself forward with his leg to only nearly dodge Kendo's simple trick. Basically, have a small fist, then make the small fist bigger. Izuku easily predicted this as Kendo's master plan basically failed, as Izuku would end up slashing forward. He did it with so little power that even when Todoroki would conjure up his ice, Izuku barely even nicked it. Kendo realized this and saw this, and she realized that is Izuku's weakness. Them, he can't bring himself to hurt them that badly. As Kendo would charge up her one for all 10% fist, she would thrust it forward, punching right through the ice, nailing Izuku right in the chest, or at least where she thought Izuku was. As Izuku was now overhead with both of them. As Izuku would almost do a full 360 as he would throw a multitude of kunai down at them. Kendo would end up making her fist larger, or no, she would make her hand large and conjure one for all to thrust her palm forward, knocking all the kunai away. And Todoroki would have just ended up using some ice to block all the kunai. When Izuku would land on the ground, he would realize that Todoroki would expect Izuku to land right in the middle. So what Izuku would do, Izuku would twist his body and use lightning movement to get behind Todoroki. But Todoroki would have expected a move like this, since Kendo is the only one that can really match his ability, and also Todoroki is really good at defense. So he might have taking out the defense leaves the offense by itself. And while the offense without any defense isn't really all that great. So Todoroki basically predicted Izuku coming after him, as Todoroki would be twisted around, or as Todoroki would be turned around with fire in his palm to shoot off a very large blast of fire at Izuku. What Todoroki didn't expect is Izuku to use a dead. No, I'm not gonna say that. What Todoroki didn't expect is Izuku to basically run through his flames, grab Todoroki by his face, and slam his head into the ground. Hey, how you doing? All right, and yourself? Bug. Anyway, where was I? Right. Slam Todoroki's head right into his own ice. As Izuku ended up kneeing Todoroki in the stomach and basically doing what he was going to do on Kaminari. He would lift his sword up in the air, use the bottom of the handle, and smack it against the back of Todoroki's head, knocking him out. Kendo would end up making her hand larger and using one for all to chop away at most of the ice. Izuku realizing that the reinforcements were probably coming soon, he would end up basically putting Kendo in a headlock. He would put up Kendo in a full Nelson as Izuku would whisper in her ear for her to stop following him. Kendo would yell back at Izuku on how in the world is she supposed to stop following him. He just ran away for no reason. At all, just because some other girl came up. How was she or any of Class 1A supposed to just let Izuku go? Izuku would tell Kendo that he misses all of them too. But for them all to be friends in peace, he needs to take care of this first. So just let him do it on his own. Kendo would then tell Izuku. Kendo would then tell Izuku he doesn't have to do it on his own. He doesn't have to carry this burden on his own. Izuku would sighs and say that he has to. As Izuku would end up pushing Kendo forward by using his foot. As Kendo would turn around to hit Izuku, but Izuku would end up rushing forward. Kendo Kendo would make a large fist and throw it forward with at least 20% of one fall, damaging her arms, but Izuku would end up dodging, getting behind her and chopping her in the back of her neck. As Kendo would fall to the ground, as Izuku end up jumping away. When this would happen, all 4 of the students would wake up in an emergency room, as they would all be classified as fine, but some of them have light bruises on them. As they would all realize that Izuku had just completely dominated them, and they had just completely dominated him, and now they basically just lost their chance to get Izuku back. As before they could fully give up hope, a group of heroes consisting of basically all the ones that we've seen. Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, it's going to be so hard to explain on who's there. So we have All Might, since All For One hasn't been able to make his move because of the Hanzo mercenary. So All Might would still... Yeah, so All Might, Endeavor, Best Genius, Blood Vlad, Aizawa, and of course Shinya Kamihara, aka Edgeshot, Mirko, Hawks, and then after that, all of Class 1A, and then all of Class 1B would all basically walk into the room, or as they will all basically be in one room they will all be in one room, as Nessa would be standing in the front, also with the chief of police, the dog. The dog would, it would just be Nezu. Nezu would end up assigning all of them a mission to go and capture Izuku. Izuku has been doing their job very effectively, more effectively than he would like to admit. But just because those methods are effective doesn't mean that they're right. Izuku has the right idea, but he's doing it the wrong way. So what he needs all of them to do, he needs all of them to go out and capture Izuku, and break Izuku in, so he can end up fighting again. So he can end up fighting alongside of them once again. As they will all agree to this, as they will all go out to find Izuku. Izuku will be out randomly in the city where one of the Hanzo mercenaries' main bases are. As ever since Izuku and most of the heroes have been taking out most majority of the Hanzos, they've been out and been doing their thing. They've taken over certain parts of the city. Certain people are now it's basically almost looking like how Izuku was in a vigilante in the manga, but on a very much lower scale. Just less destroyed buildings. And also the League of Villains also went into quote-unquote hiding, or went on the DL because of this. But I would still also say that do I want to add yeah, I'm gonna add. No, I'm not gonna add All Might. I'm gonna say that the fight still happened between All Might and All For One. So All Might isn't there. So it's only Endeavor, Best Genius, Hawks, Mirko, Edgeshot. And after that, I said all of Class 1A, all of Class 1B. Boom. But basically, Izuku will be walking out in the middle of the street, basically on patrol for Hanzo mercenary. Actually, basically on patrol for Hanzo mercenary. While Izuku will be walking in the street, he would end up hearing something. He would end up hearing something on the left side of his ear. As Izuku's eyes will quickly snap over as he would be seeing nothing. Izuku would sit there for a long pause as he would turn his head and continue to walk forward, until suddenly again he would hear another noise. Izuku would once again turn. Izuku would turn again, but instead of only merely turning his head, he would turn his entire body, and would begin walking over to where the nearest noise was. This noise would be caused by Toro Hagakure, or by Toro Hagakure. Since he's invisible, Izuku is literally just walking up right in front of her, but she's making too much noise and she's attracted him. Hello. All right. but she didn't make it too much noise. Now she's attracted to him. Izuku would be walking over until suddenly a large gust of flames would come up from one side, and a large wall of ice would be coming from the other. Izuku would look in shock as he would only nearly jump back, dodging out of the way from both the attacks. These attacks would come from Todoroki and Endeavor. As soon as this happened, Izuku would jump back again and again and again, constantly dodging different attacks from all the groups of people, or from the entirety of the group of people. As Izuku would look around, seeing that he's completely surrounded by pro heroes in Class 1A. When this would happen, Izuku would stare around, seeing that he's completely surrounded. As the first person to speak would wind up being, also Shoto Aizawa and Blood. That will also be with him. The first person to speak would be the number one hero, Endeavor, who would now be telling Izuku. Also, I feel like Endeavor would still also have the scars, so that fight also happened. But after that, they laid low. Boom. Endeavor would be yelling towards Izuku that he needs to stand down now and come with all of them, so they can take him in. Izuku would look over at Endeavor with almost dead cold eyes as he would tell Endeavor, why should he? He's doing the job more effectively than any of them. More effectively than any of them as pro heroes, and he's just a kid. So what are any of them gonna do? And Izuku would be about to continue ridiculing the pro heroes until Shinya would basically yell out. He would yell out towards Izuku that he would be yelling towards Izuku that Izuku is his son and he's his father. The best way to put it, Kamehara would just be yelling out on how he's basically just disappointed in Izuku and how he needs to come back immediately. Izuku will almost sit there in silence as he would apologize to his dad, saying that he can't. As Izuku apologized to his dad, saying that he can't, or at least he can't right now. Don't worry, when he's done dealing with Yuki and all the other Hanzo mercenaries, he promised that he'll come back. Edshot would yell at Izuku that that's not acceptable. And if Izuku doesn't want to come back now, then they'll all force him to. Now, to put it simply, there are just so many people here that I cannot go over this entire fight getting onto every single person's ability. So, to put it simply, Izuku just completely gets jumped. He gets beat and tossed around like he's a goddamn ragdoll. That's basically to summarize the entirety of the fight. He puts up a good fight, but he's literally just getting tossed. That's point blank period, getting tossed. So we would skip around to at least a day after Izuku would be awake. Izuku would be awake inside of Yue. Well, no, he would be awake inside of one of Yue's what the fuck is that place called? I guess just nurse's office. Boom. Yep, good enough. He would be inside the nurse's office as he would be laying down on the bed. Izuku would open his eyes and look around it as he would fully sit up and stand up. As Izuku would walk. Actually, no. I would say he's inside of a UA dorm. As he would walk up and stand up, as he would open up his door. When this would happen, Kendo would be at Izuku's door, basically ready to knock with a full platter of food in their hand. Izuku would be awake as Kendo and Izuku sort of sit there in silence. Kendo not wanting to say any, Kendo not saying anything. She would simply just give the plate to Izuku, saying that food's ready, and she will alert Aizawa that Izuku's woke up. Izuku would just stutter saying thank you as Kendo wouldn't say anything further. She would walk away. As she would turn and walk away. When this would happen, holy shit! I've been recording for a hell of a minute. Let me hurry up and wrap this up. Do we want to wrap it up now? Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up now. Okay, bet. All right. So Kendo would end up calling Aizawa, and Aizawa and Black King would take Izuku over to a group of heroes, and also some lawyers and some other police and very important people. They will all be telling Izuku on what he had done is illegal, but they'll all understand why Izuku had done it. So now, all of them are just basically holding a vote to see if Izuku will either A, does his time by joining them, or does Izuku join them back scot-free, or does Izuku do his time? Most of them say Izuku just do his time, but just at least help out a little bit. And some of them are just saying let Izuku just get off scot-free. After I would say about an hour of debating, Izuku would be let back on, scot-free. Some of them would disagree, but they will all believe that it's the best choice. As Izuku, as all of Class 1A and 1B and most of the media would now be notified that Izuku is now back into UA. When this has happened, when Izuku would be walking back towards the dorms, all the students there would basically be celebrating Izuku's return, as they will all be saying that all is forgiven. Only two people that really would be all that forgiving towards Izuku would be Kendo and Inasa, one of Izuku's two closest friends, which he had basically betrayed their trust by going off and going on a murder spree to protect them, but still, murder spree. People don't really like that. As Inasa really hasn't gotten a chance to encounter Izuku after a while, so the only thing Inasa can really do to function really is just punch Izuku. But as soon as he did, he would end up hugging Izuku and tell Izuku to never do something like that again. And on top of that, Kendo just sort of isn't talking to Izuku. But anyway, as Izuku was sort of just spending his time out and about with all of 1A, I don't really want to get into any real detail, but Izuku basically gets his relationships better with everyone. He apologizes, he gets his relationships back up. They're all cool now. They're all tight. They are all tight as a Boy Scout knot. That's the best I got. They're all about as tight as a Boy Scout knot. As I would say, I'm gonna say that they have a mission where they basically have to go and raid a certain a certain base. They raid this base. They basically go through all the grunts. It's all of 1A. They go through all the grunts, and eventually they end up running back into Yuki. But alongside Yuki is a black shogun that Izuku had fought, or quote unquote fought, a long time ago. When this had happened, all of Class 1A would hear on how Izuku had let Yuki's father basically die. Izuku had a chance to, hurt the shogun, let him die. She had a chance to do that, but instead of that, Izuku just stood there in fear. And let her father die, and then on top of that, didn't even waste time to try and help him leave. Because I don't know if I said this in the first part, but they could have grabbed him and ran out with him, but they didn't. because Izuku grabbed her hand and ran away. Also, her father told her to. So all of them would be notified about this, and they will all be fighting Yuki and the Shogun. While fighting, Yuki would basically end up destroying 1A and Izuku. Not by herself, of course. Izuku would have gotten lightly stronger over the time, but Izuku would still not be a match for someone like Yuki. So what would happen? Basically, Yuki would be about to deal the finishing blow until Izuku would look at Yuki with nothing but sadness in his eyes, as he would just say that he's sorry. He's sorry for everything that he did, but just leave his friends out of it. Please. Yuki would begin to feel jealous and envious that how Izuku cares more for all of them than he did even her father. Izuku would tell Yuki that isn't true, that he would say that he even loved her father and her more than he does any of his friends. Kendo would hear this out loud and feel disheartened, as Yuki would almost pause for a second. As the Shogun would come up behind Yuki and tell Yuki to do it, to kill Izuku. Yuki would bring up the spear, or the little spear blade that she uses, as she would drop it down and says that she can't. The Shogun would sigh, and as he would walk up to her and pat her on her shoulder, saying that it's fine. As what he truly wanted was this, as he would reach down and grab Izuku's blade. As soon as this would happen, the man would bite into the blade, pull it, and bite harder and harder as he would snap the blade in two. After this point, he would eat a part of that blade. After that point, he would eat the rest of the blade. As he would get a sudden boost in power, until the blade that he was holding in his hand got surrounded by a darkish reddish aura, until the blade exuded almost a dark energy. It looked like a very basic and straight katana, with basically little red marks inside of it. Actually, no. I'm not going to say any of that happened. He eats blade, but what happens is that he begins coughing and falls over, seemingly quote unquote dead. But when you check his pulse, you see that he's alive. As she remembers that this is a side effect of eating a dragon blade. The dragon blade will be explained next part, as that's where I'm going to leave this one off. I've been recording for a hot minute. I'm very tired. My legs hurt. It's hot as shit. So I'm going to see you all later. Next part. Please like, subscribe, and enjoy the one.